Hello everyone, my name's Kaye Roberts-Palmer from Blue Bee Garden Design and Save Our Citrus, and I'm here today to talk to you all about growing vegetables. Okay, I've been invited by Brimbank Libraries to bring you a weekly series of autumn gardening videos. So obviously this week it's got growing vegetables, next week planting bulbs, then I'm going to be talking about composting, and finally worm farms. So stay tuned each week to watch some of the videos that are coming up. But before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're virtually meeting on today and their elders past, present and emerging. Okay, so when we talk about growing vegetables, the first thing that we need to think about is the soil. So your soil should be like a sponge, right? It should be nice and porous with lots of aggregates, what we call aggregates. So I'm just going to show you a few things as we go along. So a good friable soil has lots of aggregates in it, lots of particles, decomposing matter, all sorts of little microbes in there. What happens is as it rains, the water gets into the porous space and is held there along with nutrients which help the plants grow. However, when you've got compacted soil or perhaps very heavy clay soil that hasn't been broken up, you get this sort of effect where all the particles and aggregates are squashed together, compacted through walking, that sort of thing, and you get water runoff, and it's harder for the nutrients to get into the soil and break it up. Now, there's nothing wrong with clay soil, it just can be improved by things like manure, compost, fertilizer, that sort of thing, because the roots really need to be able to get to the soil. Likewise with sandy soil, organic matter can improve sandy soil so the water's not running out all the time. So it's just really important to know what kind of soil you have. So you can actually do a soil test where you get a little lump of soil, rub it together with some water. If it holds together in a long sausage, then it's quite a clay soil. If it breaks apart easily, then it's got a sandy soil. But you can work with your soil and improve it, so that's not a problem. Okay. So things that you can grow now in autumn, we're talking about broad beans, cauliflower, broccoli, garlic, silver beet. So later on we're going to go around my garden. I'm going to show you a few things which will be quite fun. But perhaps you're not sure what to plant in one patch and you just want to leave it for a while to improve the soil. One of the things you can use is what they call green manure. So green manure is using plants such as vetch and clover. So you sprinkle the seeds on the veggie patch and what happens is they grow into a type of lawn. But the really interesting thing about green manure is they have nitrogen fixing properties. So the way it works, so I've just done a little diagram so you can all see. Okay, so what happens here is there's bacteria in the soil and they come along and they invade the roots of, this is a clover, they invade the roots of the clover, and the clover roots form nodules, these round things here, and inside are the bacteria. So the little bacteria are in here, and what happens is they've developed a symbiotic relationship, which means they support each other. So there's an exchange where the the bacteria gives the clover nitrogen, and in return the clover gives back carbon, so they actually support each other. But as gardeners, this is a really great thing, because what it means is that we can grow our green manure and then you cut it down and mix it in and leave the root system in, and then you get this big burst of nitrogen, which is really important when you're growing vegetables, because vegetables are hungry plants. They do like a lot more manure, fertilizer, TLC. So growing a green manure is a really great way of improving your soil. But even before you get to that, it's important that you have really good tools in your garden, that you're not scrimping, and you need to buy the best ones you can. So recently I went on a bit of a splurge and bought myself some little tools that I'm going to be using in my veggie patch. So I just want to show you. So this one here, this little implement here, is great, as you can see, for doing the seed rows, and I can put my little seeds and then hoeing it back. And it's really tough steel, so it's going to be easy to look after. Then I've got the all-important trowel. So you definitely need a trowel of some sort that you can use to make your little furrows. This one's stainless steel, so it's not going to rust. The other one I've got is a little fork here that I can fork back over my soil, over my seedlings. And this one that's a little bit scary looking is actually an edger, so I can take out any of the weeds around my veggie patch, because it's really important. You don't want your vegetables competing with your weeds, so it's good to have some great tools to use in your veggie patch. All right, so I just want to talk about nutrients as well, because we hear a lot about including nutrients for your vegetables. So the major nutrients that plants need are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, otherwise known as potash. So nitrogen gives you the lovely green leaves on your silver beet. However, if you have too much nitrogen, say with carrots, you get the really leafy tops and not the really good carrot bit. With phosphorus, phosphorus helps with cell development and strengthening the plant. However, if you are growing a lot of native plants, phosphorus isn't so good because natives take it up too much and they can overdose. Potassium or potash is great for fruit set, so it helps your plant be strong enough to produce fruit. There's also things called micronutrients that your plants need in smaller doses. You sometimes hear them called trace elements as well. There's 8 of them, but the really important ones that I see, I talk a lot about are zinc, magnesium, and iron. So zinc is great for your carbohydrates and your auxin. Auxin is a hormone in the plant. If you've ever seen your plants move away from a shady part of your wall and grow up towards the light, that's auxin elongating the cells and helping the plant do that. We've got manganese, which is great for respiration. Don't forget that your plants are breathing through little holes in their leaves underneath. And iron keeps the chlorophyll going, which keeps the photosynthesis going. The really interesting thing, as human beings, we also need iron in our hemoglobin, in our red blood cells, to keep us going. So we actually have a connection with plants, which is really lovely. Okay, so when you're buying fertilizer, they should have worked out the ratio of NPK. So when you see it, you know sort of what you're putting on your garden and why those things are important. But the other thing that's good to have on your veggie patch at the moment to prepare your soil and get that ready for your vegetables is manures. Okay, I found this really cute little cartoon. I'll just show you. So look, this is a little chicken saying my poo's better than your poo, but really they're kind of similar, but the chicken poo has a lot more of the nitrogen going on, whereas the cow poo's a little bit gentler. And I'm talking about raw manure here now. Raw manure is very strong, particularly chicken manure. Chicken manure really needs to settle for a while. If you're using like the bedding from your chicken coop, you need to leave it for a couple of months on the compost heap to break down, because otherwise you burn your plants if you leave it on. Same with the cow pap, and that can have other pathogens and weeds and things, so it's important to rest them. But what they do is, if you remember from before when I was showing that diagram with all the aggregates and the breakup of the soil, they help the soil clump together. They add organic matter, which your vegetables can get hold of and then reuse and grab some of the elements as well, the nutrients which I spoke about, and grow better. So particularly for a veggie patch, it's really important to include these kind of manures. You do find though with a lot of rain, it can wash it out. So if we have a heavy rain period, you might need to top up with some more manure. The other one that's quite popular is, I know myself, when I'm going up to the country, I see all the horse manure bags for sale. I'm always picking up a bag, which is very popular with the neighbours, but I do it anyway because I love it, is the horse manure situation. So the way it works here, okay, so you usually get it fresh like this. It needs to be composted, all right? So you need to put it in a pile, and I've said here 2 to 3 months for the horse manure to break down. That's because horses unfortunately don't digest the weeds very well, and if you put it straight on your veggie patch, you do get a lot of weeds happening. So when it's broken down sufficiently, then you can add it to your veggie patch. And I have done this when it's been broken down, and gee, you know, my veggies do absolutely love it, which is great. Okay, the other thing I just want to talk about before we have a little tour of the garden is growing from seed. So growing from seed is a really great way of saving you money. You can do it at home. So I've just made this little DIY propagation unit. So I'll just turn it up so you can see a little bit here. So all it is a little barbecue dish that I've used and some toilet rolls. I hope you've all got some toilet rolls left over that you can use. I've filled it with seed raising mix. All right, just up to the top, and then I've sprinkled the seeds. I found that a lot of the veggie seeds like broccoli and cauliflower are quite small. So when they're smaller, don't bury them too much in the seed raising mix. And then I cover it in seed raising mix. I give it a good mister, a good spray, because you want to keep it wet, humid in there. And then I've got a plastic, it needs to be transparent cover going on. Cover them over, it keeps them safe. Put them somewhere in soft light. This one is actually cauliflower I've got going on here. It'll probably be about 6 weeks before I see the little seedlings come up. I can start them in here. Then as they get a bit bigger, when they start hitting the top, I will move them to the porch where they can sort of what we call harden off, so they get used to the environment, and then I will plant them out. And I'll show you in a minute some examples of some dill that I've planted in the veggie patch using that method. So let's go now and have a look at some broad beans, some garlic, and some dill, and also some silver beet that I've got going on. But just before, I just want to talk about garlic, because I really think we should all be growing our own garlic. It's such a great thing to do. So the way it works is you take off the clove, and you need to make sure you plant it the right way up. There's a basil plate at the bottom where the roots are going to come up through. You can get them in now, and then you can harvest. So let's have a look now in. Okay, so here's the garden that I've got going on. Just showing my little veggie patch, all the netting, and we're moving on to the broccoli patch, which has the broccoli in the background and a few broad beans in the front. Here's the garlic that's been growing really well. Interspersed, I have got some silver beet and a little bit of lettuce that have self-seeded in there. They'll be in there for 9 months. The broad beans are doing really well under the netting, and I really recommend having a go at putting them under the netting. Here I've got some more silver beet that's just coming up, and some lettuce, and I am intending to put some mulch on everything once I grow a bit more. This is just to show you the little tubes of toilet rolls that I've got going on. And this is my herb patch that I have got some late tomatoes in. I've got some basil, some sage, rosemary, and some olives, and it's working so well. I'm very, very pleased with it. I hope you all enjoyed looking at the garden and going around with me. So netting, I find I'm using it for the first time. It's helping with some stray cabbage moth pests that are around at this time of year, and just help keeping the snails down, because the snails are also loving the fact it's cooler weather and we've got a lot more rain and that sort of thing. So I would give that a go. But the other thing I haven't spoken about yet, which I am now going to speak about, is planting around your veggie patch. So some of the really great things that you can think of including in your veggie patch are things like this. Okay, this is comfrey. Comfrey is a herb, but you don't eat it. This is a soil conditioning herb. So the way it works, if you chop this up and put this in your watering can and leave it for a week or so. It will break down very quickly, and then you can water that on your garden, and it's a great soil conditioner. Or even you can break it up and put it into your soil, and again it will add nutrients. It's actually that NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium elements in this are really balanced and great for the soil. The other thing, to encourage the bees, because if you're going to have your winter veggies, your bees are looking for food. I have grown a little bit of borage around the sides of the garden. Now borage, bees absolutely love borage. They have little blue flowers on them. It feeds them. You can eat the flowers, not the foliage, just the flowers. And it helps support your local bee population. Once it's flowered, I tend to take it out or cut them back because it does seed quite easily, and it's something, once your seeds, you do have it in your garden, but it's a great little addition to around your veggie patch. The other ones that I have around my garden are, first off, the salvias. So honestly, you know, it's autumn and they're flowering like this. They're so beautiful, and the bees love them. There's burst of color. They are really hardy. They can cope with any kind of condition. So have a look up salvias. There's lots of different colors. They're really great to have around your veggie patch, and they smell like pineapple. So it's great to have them. The other one that I quite like is tansy. So tansy is a herb. Now the smell of tansy, yeah, it's okay, but all your beneficial insects love it. They come round, they land on it, they eat other bad pests that are around. I find having tansy near my veggie patch really balances out my garden quite a bit. So I grow this for the beneficial insects. So with these around my veggie patch, you know, it's really helping to encourage the diversity and keep my veggies, you know, safe and well, and they're growing really good at the moment. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, so this has just been a quick guide to growing veggies. If you have any questions, please put them into the comments section below. I will be around to answer your questions. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, next week I'm going to be talking about planting bulbs. So thank you for watching this video on growing vegetables. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you're all staying safe and well at this time. Bye.